Coming up on The Bottom Line, a Montgomery County parent who has turned her loss into an educational campaign for residents of all ages. Some special young athletes gain confidence and friendships on the ice. And would you give up your vacation time to fight for a cause? We'll introduce you to one Montgomery County resident who did just that. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Susan Kennedy. Last year on Halloween, Gwen Ward lost her 15-year-old daughter, Christina, after she was struck by a car while crossing the street on her way to school. That tragedy sent her on a mission to raise awareness to the dangers of distracted walking and driving. And she has the support of officials countywide. The death of young Christina Morris Ward last Halloween left an impression throughout the community, and especially with her mother.
Christina, she was a fun-loving young lady. She would debate with me, you know, but that was my right hand.
In honor of her, Safe Kids Worldwide has launched a campaign that urges students and parents to put their devices down and pay attention to their surroundings. And to make sure her daughter's death is not in vain, Gwen Ward has made it her mission to raise awareness to the dangers of distracted driving.
I don't want another family to have to experience what I've experienced. It's very hard when you lose a loved one, especially at the age that Christina passed away. I just want to make sure that the kids are aware that things can happen. You can wake up in the morning and think that, you know, you'll make it back home, and sometimes that's not the case, especially in the case of my daughter.
Late last year, right at this intersection, a young woman was killed.
Councilmember Craig Rice is doing what he can to help Ward spread her message.
The sign that you see behind me is one of the responses that we've made to make sure that our drivers are looking out for pedestrians.
It really is a tragedy for us to lose any one of our children. And so we've taken that message literally to the streets to make sure that we're talking to all of our children, to make sure that we're talking at all of our community meetings about how important pedestrian safety really is. It really does mean life or death.
Yes, my daughter may have had on dark clothes and earplugs in her ears. I just wish that someone would have stepped out or tried to get her attention and say, you know, to let her know, little girl, take that stuff out. But also as drivers, we have to make sure that we are aware of what's around us, because that's our responsibility, driving these 3,000-pound vehicles or heavier. I mean, like, we miss her a whole lot. But again, you know, advocating and getting out here and speaking on this issue is really, really helping us to get past, you know, what we've experienced.
For many children, being a part of a sports team is a rite of passage. But for some youngsters, being on a team is simply not an option due to circumstances beyond their control. But for a group of special Montgomery County youngsters, there's a sports program that allows them to join the game. And what's built here on this team is so much more than just muscles. Harry Burdick is in his second season as a member of the Montgomery Cheetahs hockey team. Harry is autistic.
This is how Harry communicates. He doesn't have spoken language at all.
He doesn't speak, but he's incredibly smart. His IQ is 145.
A-R-T. Tell them I am smart. We did already.
Bright and early each Saturday morning, Harry comes to play hockey at the Cabin John Ice Rink in Bethesda.
It's like a little bit of normal childhood for him that he really has never been able to experience. He's on a team.
The Cheetahs hockey team is now in its 8th season. Today, the Cheetahs has more than 80 players with varying developmental disabilities.
Which color do you want to wear today? Give me your choice.
This one.
You do? All right.
All right,
Both
but
for you.
no, wait.
Oh,
this one. I don't want to get bad luck.
What makes the program really special was it actually emerged as a volunteer project to begin with. It was a bar mitzvah project for two 13-year-old boys. But oftentimes those are one go. It's 1 month, they run a project.
You want to be a goalie. It's a lot of equipment you got to wear, right? You want to give it a try?
to have something sustain itself like this is really one of the more amazing aspects. As a volunteer program, we see people come and go, but the volunteer leadership here is consistent.
Yeah, I'm always trying to get them to keep 2 hands on the stick, be prepared at all times, right?
Ed Crane is the father of Arjuna and Aramis, and he's also the mentor coordinator for the Cheetahs.
Arjun, your turn.
He told us when Arjuna arrived for his first day of practice, it didn't go so well.
And he hated it. He kicked and he screamed. He nearly took my fingers off, when I was putting the skates on him. But since I had played and I love the feeling of being in the rink, I just stayed with him. I practically held him up the entire first season, And then the mentor program started coming along, and he got used to being with somebody else, and he started liking it.
But along with getting weekly activity, being a part of the Cheetahs provides so much more to kids like Harry, Arjuna, and Aramis. It's on the ice where they get a sense of belonging.
It's hard for them to have normal friendships, right? Because for Aramis, Arjuna's case, he doesn't communicate that well. He's now verbal. And Aramis, he doesn't understand how to keep continuity with other kids. So they wouldn't otherwise have the degree of friendships they have here, because this is the 8th year, multi-years for them. So they see the same people, and they get used to this environment and these people, and now they develop really strong bonds. So, that really helps.
I think it's a sort of piece of the puzzle, and it helps him to make steps forward in lots of different ways. Having Marcelo, his mentor, has made a huge difference socially. Having that sort of typical peer who doesn't look down on him, who never questions whether Harry's intelligent or not, and just pulls him along, has made a huge difference.
Marcelo is one of the many mentors who volunteers with the Cheetahs, and he spends most of his time with Harry. Each week, the two of them are on the ice learning about hockey, and through that, they have formed a special bond, a first for Harry.
I'm dedicated to this, so I've been here every weekend that he's here, basically, and I mean, you have other dedications, so you can't be here every single weekend, but most of the weekends he's here, I'm here.
Does he make your life easier? He stops me falling down.
Whether you had friends or not, I still would have been friends, because he's just a great kid.
Is he your friend as well? Y-E-S.
Always making jokes. We went to dinner this one time. I was wearing these pink shoes, and he was just like, "So what's with the pink shoes?" And I just stood there, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you." So it's just really funny.
2 hands on your stick. Get that ring. Here we go.
But the Cheetahs has done more than just help the kids. It's here on Saturday mornings these parents feel welcome to share their experiences with others who can empathize and offer comfort and advice.
Well, the community that's formed around it is probably one of the more impressive elements. It's not just the kids on the ice. In a lot of ways, it's the families that have found a network for themselves.
I don't have to be worried about my son having a temper tantrum. I can just be me, and he can be him. It's my outlet. It's the only place I can go to express how I feel, and the other parent says, "Oh yeah, I know."
Over the years, going from someone who struggled with taking direction and just kind of working with other kids into a kid who knows about teamwork and knows about playing the game of hockey.
But the reality is many of these kids go to school together. They know each other from therapy sessions. They've seen each other at doctor's offices. And it's allowed a social bond to form that's much more than just hockey.
This is a really rich resource, rich in information, because we talk about what we've done with our children, what works, what hasn't worked for us, and you got to remember that we're on the cutting edge. We can't wait 20 years for the controlled study to say, yeah, that thing you were thinking about 20 years ago, that would have helped your kid. You should have done it. It's like, no. So sometimes you end up throwing money after things that don't work, but here you get to narrow down the focus, because a lot of the families, especially the older ones, have been through a lot of these things that can help your child, and certainly we've been in that situation.
D-O-N-U-T-S. Help me get more donuts. It's kind of hard to get up on a Saturday morning at, the ridiculous o'clock. So it's knowing that those people are there is what sort of makes you make that journey every week.
Before going green became mainstream, Dr. Seuss warned against the dangers of not treating the environment with care and respect in his story, The Lorax. Over the summer, the County Council took action to protect the tree canopy with the passage of 2 bills. But one resident took the Lorax to heart and spoke for the trees to see these bills through.
Well, my interest stemmed from a personal experience that we had as homeowners here in Montgomery Hills. There was a 1-acre tract of land behind us. A developer, he decided to take down all the trees and put 6 houses and a road on an acre of land. And so that got the neighborhood stirred up about the loss of the woods behind us. What that told us was that there were some gaps in the existing forest conservation law. Arlene Brune is with Conservation Montgomery. She's on our board. She actually started working on the street tree bill about, I would say, 5 years ago. And around the same time frame, the county executive's office started working on an urban canopy bill.
You were so passionate about seeing these bills through that you took time out of your life to make sure that the loose ends were tied up and it got through. Talk a little bit about that.
I was involved in trying to, keep the community engaged. There was a lot of community education, community information that we did. We did a lot of writing. We got fact sheets generated, letters to the editor. We went out to different organizations and spoke to them about what the laws were, what the proposed laws would do. And so I was involved in all of that. A lot of this was, all of it was weekends and nights. A lot of the speaking to groups was at night because of civic associations usually will meet in the evening. So it really took a lot of time out of my personal life.
So you must have an awful lot of passion for this issue. In fact, as I've read and as I know, you took a month leave from your job to see these measures through. Why did you feel that this was so important?
At the time that I took a leave of absence, I was working for NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And you can't do volunteer work on the federal clock, so to speak. So I took a month off and just did a lot of work with mainly sitting around the table with developers and members of the community to look at what was being proposed.
There's some information in there. There's some tree tips and some things about planting trees and keeping them healthy.
What was it about this issue that made you feel that this was something you had to do?
Well, it just needed to move forward. Time was dragging on. It was a period of about 8 years that it took to get the legislation passed. There was a lot of opposition to the legislation from the business community. And, in the meantime, as time was dragging on, more trees were going down in communities and people were getting upset. When you get that much input from the community, you feel like, well, you got to do something. I guess I would consider myself a different kind of tree hugger. I am a tree hugger, but I think you have to be professional. You have to be reasonable. You have to base what you're saying and what you're doing on facts instead of emotion. And that's important in terms of just getting people to sit down and talk to you and negotiate and listen to what you have to say.
And how fitting we should leave you this week with more trees as we take a tour to see some of this county's champion trees located in the Sandy Spring area. I'm Susan Kennedy. Thanks for watching.